Hello everybody, Nicholas from Dead by Dice here. In this video we are going to take a look at the brand new role-playing game Blade Runner that is released by Free League Publishing, and I believe this is their second installment in their journey through movie and TV show IPs that they transform to role-playing games. First one was Alien the role-playing game. Now we have Blade Runner, the role-playing game, just released, and soon to come in 2023, I believe. They will release the Walking Dead role-playing game. Looking very much forward to this, but maybe not as much as I have been looking forward to this, the Blade Runner. Which I think may be the absolute perfect sweet spot for an IP-going role-playing game. Well, in this video, we will page through this core rulebook, and we will also stop on each section and maybe have some comments around what's in them. Well, I think I have said enough. Let's dive right into it. Okay, so let's start off with the cover of the book. Here we have a Blade Runner in the foreground with a drawn gun, and we see a spinner taking off from an alley downtown, probably a really rainy day or night in Los Angeles. I think this is a really beautiful image to have on the cover of the book because it's so iconic and it's so much speaking Blade Runner. Let's proceed into the book. On the inside of the cover, we have a big map of central Los Angeles, and you see here the different sectors that you recognize from the movies, and we also have several places here that we can remember from the movies, like for example, Nightclub Row, Animoid Row, the LAPD headquarters. I also really like this glowing of the streets here in this map, which makes it look like it's electric, like some kind of nerve system. Let's proceed to the next pages. Here is the table of contents, and the first chapter is called Fury, the Angels Fell, and this is a description, more or less an overview over the entire game. We have chapter 2, Your Blade Runners, which is focusing on characters. Chapter 3, going a little bit deeper in the characters, skills and specialities, it's called. Number 4 is Combat and Chases. Number 5, A Tale of Two Cities, that will focus a lot more on Los Angeles at this time. And The Power That Be, Chapter 6, is more a deeper dive into the political climate and the mega corporations and the life and powers in this universe. And we go to the next page, and here we have chapter 7, Working the Case, which focuses on how you as a agent or a Blade Runner will work with the cases, and that is the scenarios. The cases are the scenarios in this game. And chapter 8 is the tools of the trade, and it's focusing on gear and things that you use. For example, the Voigtkampf machine that will tell if somebody is a replicant or not from the movie, and other iconic stuff like spinner and metro cabs and stuff. And the last chapter 9 is a chapter for the game runner or the game master. And we have here a preface written by Thomas Härenstam. That's really nicely written about why he loves the Blade Runner and has done so since his youth. I know we are more or less the same age, so I remember a lot of stuff here in this text as well, in the same way, more or less. We have the first chapter, Fury, the Angels Fell. You know the score, pal. If you're not cop, you're little people. That's a quote here on the first page. We have some text here and some beautiful illustrations with some kind of flying cars. I don't know if I don't remember if all of them are called spinners or if it's just those with the wheels sticking out. Well, here is about Megacorps and Planets Fall, a little history and lore from the universe. We have also a timeline here that will go from the 1980s to all the way to 2037 here. So here are stuff that has happened in this world and the development. Next page. Welcome to Los Angeles 2037. Here is also a little bit more focus, I guess, focusing in on Los Angeles and focusing in also on the police department and the unit, the Blade Runners. And some information on how to be a Blade Runner. Humans and replicants, uneasy allies, key themes, and corporate intrigue, sci-fi action, character drama. So it's a little bit explaining on how you play as a Blade Runner. Blade Runner, I believe, I tried to find some information on where the name comes from, and there are several theories, but one of them are that in ancient times there was you called people who were working with executions were called blades, and blade was a name for execution units. So I think that it could be. One of the theories is that it comes from there, the Blade Runner. There is also another theory of an early sci-fi-ish novel that was read by William Burroughs, a author, and he fell in love with that, and he started off something called Blade Runner. Well, I won't get too much into that. Probably you know much better what the truth is about it. So if you know, please write it in the comments, please. Let's move on. And well, here are also the key themes: moral conflict and soul searching, and sci-fi action, character drama, and corporate intrigue. That's how Free League wants you to play this, how it's meant to play when they wrote it. You can of course play it however you want, but those are the key things that they want you to play. Role-playing Blade Runner. Here we have the players. We also have different stuff inside the game. There's case files. You run it like a police department with case files. You have maps, mug shots here. You see this is a classic police detective game, and that's why I think that this universe is so fit to be used as a role-playing game. Measuring time, we have time trackers around. Shift is kind of practical information. And if it's your first tabletop RPG, this little section here is especially for you. And we have the character chapter here. One thing I have read about it is that you can you can play both a human Blade Runner, but you can also play a replicant Blade Runner. But there is also a third type that they explain. It is that you can be a human, but the game master, the game runner, can decide that he can roll a die, or he or she can roll a die and decide if you really are a replicant. So you as a player might not know that you are a replicant. You think you are a human, but in the end, it will probably may or may not reveal that you actually are a replicant, and that's a really cool detail, I think. Here are several things about character creation. Tables you can roll your dice on. It's about year on the force, how long have you been working, and attribute scores, and let's see here, more tables, memory tables. Much of this you can make up if you want, but you can also roll it, all of it. And here we see your gear, what kind of gear this you have, probably some kind of general gear, because I guess one of the last chapters were gear that is specialized for your kind of profession. And we have different archetypes here, different characters, analyst. We have city speaker. We have a doxy. You always know what to say, body language, eye contact, vocal tones. I actually don't know exactly what a doxy is, but it sounds like someone who is kind of street smart. Enforcer, fixer, inspector, skimmer, and that was that. So these descriptions are for when you have created your characters. Then you especially roll on these tables to get your unique attributes. Here we have skills and specialities. Skills and specialities is what makes you unique, your character unique. All characters does not have these skills as a difference from the attributes, where everyone has the attributes, but you have different strength in them. But here you have skills that are based upon the attributes. So in the game, the core skills are force, hand-to-hand combat, stamina, firearms, mobility, stealth, medical aid, observation, tech, connections, manipulation, insight, and driving. So here is how you may choose, or you may get skills from your game runner, and how you use the dice to roll them. Then we have combat and chases, chapter 4. And here are the classic kind of combat procedures with rounds and initiative and how you play that. This system is based upon the Year Zero engine that Free League Publishing have used in many of their games, amongst them in Alien role-playing games. And I presume, I don't know, I haven't really done a dive into this yet, but I presume it's more or less the same procedure to play rounds in initiative and the combat sequences. Here are the actions and moves, and the movement and the combat actions is what you can do during your turn in a combat sequence. Then we have this page in chapter 4 where we get to a little bit more zooming in on the combat. Here we have the close combat and an overview of how you do the close combat, and then the ranged combat with weapons starts here. We have a section here which describes damage, how you take damage, injuries and critical injuries, where you have these tables where you roll for which kind of critical injury you will receive sometimes. So here's critical injuries crushing and critical injuries piercing, which both sound very bad. And looking fast through the table, they are not anything I would like to receive. For example, here, cracked skull, massive internal organ damage, pierced heart. That's a bad one. And we have cracked ribs, and we have broken nose and crushed skull. Yeah, we had that here also. Well, so watch out for that. We have stress factors. We have stress that you, during combat or during bad situations or stressful situations, you receive stress. It's like in some games where you have sanity, for example. Now I'm referring to Call of Cthulhu, which is one of my favorite games, where you are affected by hard situations that will make you probably panic or something, and do stuff in another way, or treat some situations in other ways that you would if you were like calm and clear. So here you have that. Critical stress effects, yeah, other hazards, probably many in a world like this. We have chases, how they are done. And then we have A Tale of Two Cities. And here is chapter 5, A Tale of Two Cities. And this chapter is about LA and its background, and how the state of LA in these times that you are playing. So it's a lot of background material, lore, and explanation of how the city works, how the politics works, differences between rich and poor, and also the great divide between, as I said, rich and poor, but also the city life, and how we also have a section here called Going Downtown, and that's just what you do in this section here. We have then the map, and then we have explications of each sector, what you find there, because this city has been so overgrown, the population has grown so big that they need to create these sectors and have their own communities inside them. So as you can see here, Sector 1, Entertainment District, Arts District in Sector 2, Sector 4, Industrial District, Sector 5, Central District, and so on. And here you have everything you need to know about them. And then I guess they focus on some sectors a little bit more, like Sector 5 here, the Central District. And here we see a typical home in these times. And I think I remember this from the movie, of course. Sector 4, the Industrial District. What you find there, Chinatown, Hawker Circle, Sector 9. So this is a pretty good explanation, I think. And it's a good way to lay out the scene for your coming adventures and scenarios. The powers that be is chapter number 6, and this seems to explain a little bit how the government powers and the corporate powers work and the dynamics between them. Because there are both those who want to exterminate or terminate or shut down the replicants, but there are also people and companies that does not want that. So this is an interview here on a page with a guy called Nyander Wallace from the Wallace Corporation, who is against the termination of replicants, I guess. Government agencies, here are a lot of how the society works, not only the city, but here we have the TV media, periodicals, and other stuff, criminal enterprises as well. Wallace Corporation. We have the section here about the replicants. Nexus 1 to Nexus 5. Probably here some history behind that. We also have the Nexus 6, the famous one, Nexus 8, Nexus 9, and Nexus 7. So this is a really lore section to read, and I'm looking really forward to dive into that. The replicant lot in life. We have here some magazine articles so you can get a sense of how a magazine would look like in Los Angeles during this time. Working the case. Now we're getting into focusing into the LAPD and the Blade Runner unit and their gear and their way of working, their processes and so on. So the RDU is the Replicant Detect Unit that you are a part of. And there are different divisions here: criminal investigations, security and special forces, forensic sciences, and administration. So here we have different resources requests. And standard procedure, how whenever you are a fresh detective, your first case is seasoned badged with the scuff marks to prove it. There is a standard procedure to running investigations in the Rep Detect unit. So whenever you crack open that new case file, make sure to follow the flow. So here is what you are supposed to do according to your boss above you. And how to work a crime scene. So there's a lot of information there. And here we get to the gear section. Tools of the trade. The Void Camp machine, the famous Void Camp machine. Baseline test. And you have armory, what kind of guns and ammo you have. Cool stuff. Synthetic support. And here we have the Detective Special Spinner. Beautiful car, isn't it? Here we have the last chapter of the book, Chapter 9, Running Blade Runner. This is the chapter made for the game runner or game master, as we normally call it. And this will contain a lot of information on how to run the game. On the first pages here, we have some explanation of how to run the game and the key themes of the game. This is more or less tips if you are a new game master or you want to know how it was intended to be run, this game. So you see the key themes, playing scene by scene, splitting the party, setting the mood, and the anatomy of a case file. When we check the anatomy of the case file, a case file is more or less a scenario. So the way they have done it is they have a prelude, as we see here. They have a briefing of the case, the situation, the countdown, main characters, locations, final confrontations, and then aftermath. So, and this is the structure, more or less, like a linear structure of a case file. And of course, you do not have to play it like this, but this is what is recommended and more like a guide. We have then the section here that's called playing investigations, and there is a section here called tracking time. And as they have explained earlier in chapter 1, in the text, each day has 4 shifts, and that is morning, day, evening, and night. And each character can visit one location of the case file each shift of a day. So morning, day, evening, and night can be at maximum 4 locations that can be visited during one day. Also, again, this is a recommendation. It's not obligatory to do it like this, but it's to make the time go as natural as it possibly was intended to in the game. That is the way you should do it. If we then go further here, we see city travel, finding clues, locations, handouts. These are also sections for the game master to read and consider. Downtime is when between the cases that you are to solve, and there many times there you make progress with your character, if you play it that way. Promotion and humanity, non-player characters. Let's go proceed until this chapter, which I think is a nice one. It's the case file generator. Since this book contains a lot of information about the setting, the world, and how everything works with the people and the population and the politics and the big mega corporations, there you have an entire world working. But to play different scenarios or cases, this book then contains a case file generator. It means that you, with a die or some dice, can roll a case to be scrambled or shuffled or randomized. As you see here, you can use these tables, these case tables, like the first one here, as you see down here. The theme, this is where you roll a d10 and you can roll the theme for your coming case. The case table number 2, you roll the assignment, and there is also sub tables in this right big table here, the case table 2, and you can also, you see this on the right, on the left here, there is more tables, and you have the case table 3 where you roll for NPCs, and you have case table 4 where you roll for sectors, and so on. So and you see here we also have the case table 5 for clues, the twist, final confrontation, and mood pieces. So there's a lot of tables that you can randomize and get your unique case file to be played with your players. This is really awesome, I think, because you can build more or less an entire scenario around this together with the world building in the previous chapters. And lastly, in the book, we have the index. And after that, in this PDF at least, let's see here, we have the character sheets. I won't go through them, but this is how they look. A lot of information. And here you can also see on the right side the case file time tracker. That's where you need to write down where you have been on the different shifts of the day. And next we have the entire map of Los Angeles again here. So this is the last page of the book, the inside of the cover. Well, that was the entire book, the entire Blade Runner role-playing game core rulebook. We have just scratched the surface of this beautiful game, and I hope to be able to dive into some sections together with you at a later time. I hope you liked this video, and I hope to see you next time. Have a really nice evening. Bye.